Hello everyone, thank you very much for joining us for another story here at Annie Narrates. The title for this story goes like this. Sister plays a crazy prank on parents to gain popularity on social media and destroys parents' marriage and blamed it all on me as soon as she's caught. So I proved my innocence to them with proof, but parents find more dirt on her and suing her in court, and now she wants me to pay for her lawyer, as that's the only way I can possibly mend the family. So I, 23 female, and my sister Julie, 20 female, grew up in the modern age of technology. I was born at the turn of the century when things like cell phones and personal computers were available, but limited only to the wealthy. When my sister was born, however, she bought our first ever digital video camera, and it was to document her infancy. I guess that was symbolic in a way, because Julie loved the cameras. She loved having her photos taken and adored being filmed. As a kid, she would pretend to host her own reality TV show and play the role of the announcer, judge, and performer, all the while I pretended to film her on my fake camera. We loved seeing her have fun. She had so much joy dancing and singing and jumping all over the place, as if she were on the film, that it filled us with joy. My dad always said that Julie was a born performer and that she was made for the cameras, and I wholeheartedly believed him. There was something about Julie that made her stand out. She had the potential to be something great. I, on the other hand, was the complete opposite. I was very introverted and shy and preferred not to be the center of attention, and was not only completely fine, but relieved when Julie got to be in the spotlight. Since Julie loved to entertain so much, she convinced my mother to let her sign up for pageants when she was around 7. She loved getting dressed up and showing off her talents, and she was convinced that pageants were going to make her a star. My parents were very hesitant about this because they knew that children could easily be exploited in these kind of industries. Julie cribbed and cried and somehow got her way. We were completely new to the world of pageants, but Julie was a natural and won many prizes. By the time she was 10, she was one of the most successful child pageant stars out there. On the downside, all of the acclaim and success has started getting to her head. She became a bit of a show-off and also very bratty and spoiled. My parents saw that this wasn't healthy for her and decided to pull her out of the pageantry. As you could expect, this decision was met with a lot of resistance from Julie because she wanted to continue with pageantry, but my parents stood their ground no matter how many tantrums she threw. It wasn't easy dealing with her because she felt that she was entitled to having a say about these issues just because she was good at it. She began to lash out at my parents and did her best to do so as she pleased. My parents knew that if they let her continue this way, she would become one of those insufferable brats, and decided to remove her from that world before it got too late. I feel that even today, Julie still resents them for it. As the years went by, so did our access to electronics and the internet. While I used the internet to Google information for my homework, Julie had very different plans. She loved going on YouTube and watching prank videos and parody videos and wanted to make a few of her own. She started pranking us at random times. They were very small, harmless, and honestly funny pranks that gave all of us a good laugh. One time, she pranked my dad by giving him a spoonful of pudding that she had mixed with salt. Another time, she pranked my mother by telling her that her favorite singer was in town. I enjoyed them, and so did my parents. Julie had always been mischievous and a bit of a prankster, and we always had a laugh whenever did one. Julie pranked me a bunch too, but the one that truly scared me was when I was studying for a very important exam and was stressed to the max. I had studied throughout the day and then planned to take a short power nap so that I could wake up earlier and revise. Everyone knew how stressed I was and decided to stay out of my way. I went to sleep and was later shaken awake by Julie, who looked frantic, saying that it was 7 a.m. and that I had slept through my alarms. I was terrified because I hadn't studied much and there was no time left. I leaped out of bed and started panicking until I was in tears, only to find Julie laughing at me and telling me that it was a prank and that she had changed the time of the clock. I was relieved, but so angry at the same time. I will admit, it was a smart and funny prank, but at the time I was annoyed. The worst part was that she had hidden a camera on my dresser which captured the entire thing. I do remember laughing with my family while rewatching it. However, it soon became annoying because Julie always ended up playing the video whenever we had guests over, which made me embarrassed. When Julie was around 14, Facebook was huge. Everyone knew who was on it, and if you didn't have a Facebook account, you were kind of a loser, at least for us kids back then. I was 17 at the time and used Facebook to chat with my friends, though I never really posted anything. Julie begged my parents to let her have an account, but my parents felt that she was too young for it. One day, I woke up to hundreds of notifications on my phone and was shocked to see that someone had posted the recording of the prank Julie had pulled on me to my Facebook account. The video had gone viral with thousands of likes, shares, and comments. I was appalled because now, my embarrassment was on public display for everyone to see. I knew Julie was behind this and I was furious. When I confronted her about this, she initially denied having anything to do with it, but I knew she was lying. When she saw how popular it was though, she completely changed tracks and admitted it to posting it in secret. I expected my parents to be just as furious with her as I was, because this was a huge breach of my privacy. I wasn't very popular, and after this, it would just get worse. To my shock, my parents actually found it funny. They did tell her that what she did was wrong, but I think even they were shocked at the huge response the video was getting and told me to stop being a party pooper. I told them that this was going to ruin my social life and that I was going to delete the video, but they told me to keep it up. They said that it was just a bit of fun and there was no real harm caused. I couldn't believe it. Julie got off scot-free. I deleted the video, of course, but by then, almost everyone at school had seen it and began teasing me for it. Every time I walked into a room, somebody would get up and reenact me jumping out of bed and freaking out. This lasted for months, and I hated every second of it. Julie became somewhat of a mini celebrity when people found out that she posted the video. I also heard that people were paying her to pull pranks on their friends and film it. She had started a sort of business at school. People would line up to talk to her at lunch and give her details about the prank and the victim. She would then plan out the entire prank, assign a cameraman, and find a proper location to carry it out. Then she would put the plan into motion and prank the person. Again, these were mostly funny and harmless pranks, and most of us got a laugh out of them. However, slowly, the requests got more harmful than humorous. The pranks would be mean and borderline bullying, which I didn't enjoy one bit. Julie also got a little too invested in them. As the months progressed, she would assign a cameraman, sometimes multiple to get different angles, and would pick out the best location. She would also ask other students to be extras to completely sell the prank. It was honestly getting a little scary. After Julie turned 16, she allowed to use social media and began posting all her pranks on TikTok and Instagram, and within a few months, she managed to get a few thousand followers, and the numbers just kept growing. My parents didn't find anything wrong. They loved the fact that she was getting attention and supported her. The pranks kept getting more morbid because that's what her audience wanted to see. From being silly and funny, they started becoming scary and honestly dangerous. For example, once she pranked this tiny freshman who had just lost her mom very tragically by saying that she was being called to the principal's office urgently because apparently her father had had a heart attack and was in very critical condition. This poor girl, who had no idea that Julie did this sort of thing, went into a full-blown panic attack. She couldn't breathe or talk. The situation escalated so much that she started having a seizure and a medic had to be called, and she had to be taken to a hospital. I was horrified when I heard about it. By now, it had been a few years since I had graduated high school, and I was away for college. I had no idea just how bad this had gotten. The school suspended Julie for 6 months and banned her from filming or doing any of the pranks on campus again. Thankfully, the girl was okay. Her father was furious, but after my parents pleaded with him, he agreed not to press charges. Even though my parents finally got the sense to reprimand her for her actions, Julie was still convinced that what she did was entertaining and that people these days were too fragile to take a joke. I tried my best to make her understand that her pranks were not funny anymore, but she told me that I was just being jealous because she was famous. I think you get the general idea by now. She was so mesmerized by the idea of being famous that her judgment was completely skewed. As the years passed by, the idea of fame completely ruined Julie. She went from making funny videos to making pranks that could legitimately harm someone just so that she could get attention on social media. The thing is, she couldn't see that what she was doing was harmful. After she finished high school, I heard that a bunch of kids were being inspired by her to make this type of content themselves. Honestly, it was getting very real now. Julie moved out at 18. She was getting a lot of money by making these videos. She had even gotten a manager and was getting brand deals from other influencers. She relied solely on her social media earnings and didn't bother to go to college or get a job. I advised her many times to have a backup option because social media was so fickle, but she didn't care. Meanwhile, I was moving on with my life. I finished college and then moved in with my boyfriend, now fiancé Damien. I got a job and we even adopted a puppy. I was happy and ready to finally be adulting. Julie had blocked me from all her social media because I kept reprimanding her for it. I was hurt, but I figured that seeing her content was just going to hurt me. She didn't listen to me no matter what I said, so I kind of gave up and decided to focus on my own life instead. From what I had heard, for the past year or so, Julie started losing followers. Her content was getting repetitive, and her audience wanted more dangerous pranks with high odds. They were beginning to lose interest. It was sickening just seeing how an audience could be such a bad influence on someone. Her follower count started decreasing and she began doing things out of desperation. She tried changing her style of content and tried making fashion and beauty vlogs, but she was losing followers drastically. About 4 months ago, she called me and she sounded very upset. She said that her social media accounts were failing and no matter what she did, her viewers were losing interest. Because of this, her manager was planning on quitting and all the brand deals and sponsorships that she had collaborated with were now backing out. I felt terrible for her, and this might make me sound like a terrible person to some of you, but in a way, I was a little glad that this was happening, only because it could lead Julie to finally growing up and getting serious about her life instead of making these ridiculous videos on the internet. I tried reassuring her that everything would be alright and that she was young and still had a bright future ahead. She told me that now she wouldn't have a stable income and requested me to lend her some money. I was in a pretty tight situation financially myself because both Damien and I weren't earning much. Most of what we earned went into the rent and bills. However, we had started saving for the wedding. Julie swore that she would return the money as soon as she was able to get back on her feet, and after discussing it with Damien, we decided to give her all her savings. She made me promise not to tell my parents about this because they were already so disappointed in her and she didn't want to let them down even more. Over the next 2 months, Julie and I met very frequently. I could see that even though she had given up on her channel, she was more determined and motivated than ever, and that made me very happy. I was honestly relieved that she was trying to get a new job. I even tried getting her a job at the place where I worked. I started thinking that maybe this whole fiasco was just a blessing in disguise when things began to go downhill a little over a week ago. I was just about done with work when I got a frantic phone call from Damien telling me to check Julie's Instagram page. He didn't tell me exactly what was happening, except for the fact that she was live streaming and that he was coming to pick me up right away. Confused, I tried looking up her account but I forgot that I was blocked, so I used one of my coworkers' phones to see what was up, and my jaw dropped. Julie was live streaming a massive argument between my parents. My mother was yelling at my dad while he was trying to defend himself. My mom was in tears and throwing cushions at him. What was even more appalling was that a scantily clad girl whom I had never seen before was all over my dad, saying that she loved him and that she was his mistress. All my coworkers gathered around me to see what was happening, and I was mortified. It finally clicked that this was just one of Julie's stupid pranks, and I was furious. What made me even angrier was that there were hundreds of comments laughing and joking about my parents fighting. I tried calling my parents, but they didn't answer. I tried calling Julie, but with no success. I didn't know what to do. I called Damien and told him to go straight to my parents' house and mediate the situation because he was much closer and that I would come by myself. I rushed to my car and tried to go home as fast as I could, but since it was the end of the day, everyone was going home and there was a major traffic jam. I took a shortcut thinking it would be faster, but ended up getting stuck in the wet mud since it had been raining heavily. As I was trying to get out, another car skid on the mud and rear-ended me. All I remembered was glass shattering and immense pain, and I blacked out only to wake up in the hospital with my mom and Damien by my side. My head hurt and my hand was in a sling. They told me that I had a concussion and that my left leg was fractured, but otherwise, there was no real harm apart from my car getting totaled. Both of them looked very distressed, but relieved when I woke up. I was so confused that I didn't even remember what had happened. As the memories came rushing back, so did my anger. I demanded to know where Julie was. I needed an explanation. Damien explained everything. He said that Julie had never left content creation. All that drama she did about trying to find a job and losing her manager and so forth were all lies. For the past 2 months, she had been meticulously planning for this prank. She had been keeping polls on her Instagram for people to vote for who should be pranked next, and everyone wanted to see my parents get pranked. Julie was approached by a big media agency who said that if she managed to get another viral video, they would consider signing with her. Julie knew that her audience wanted drama, and what was more drama than a cheating scandal? Now this one came as a shock to me. She was finding it difficult to find ideas and then came to me. Apparently I was the one who made this huge, elaborate plan. Anyway, to summarize, Julie decided to prank my mom into thinking that my dad was cheating on her, and she put her everything into making it look as convincing as possible. With my help, she chose an actress who would be playing the role of her mistress, and this was my master plan. My dad visits the country club every weekend to play golf. Julie knew this and felt that this would be the perfect place to introduce this mistress. Let's call her Lana. Lana pretended to be working at the country club and tried flirting with my dad, who obviously rejected her advances. For the past 2 months, every time my dad visited the country club, Lana would be all over him, trying to get his attention. My dad politely rejected her every single time. Now Julie began making fake photographs of them together, as well as very explicit fake text messages and phone calls between my dad and Lana. Finally, after 2 months of planning, she put it into action that day. She made sure that my mom was out shopping and that my dad was at home alone before she sent Lana to our front door. Lana rang the bell, much to the shock of my dad, and made up some excuse to get into the house. My dad, still confused as to what was happening, hesitantly let her in so that she could make a few calls and get help. Before he knew it, Lana started flirting with him and falling all over him, much to his confusion. Just then, my mom walked in and saw the whole thing. Honestly, I don't blame her for how she reacted, because even I would be shocked and furious. When my dad tried explaining, my mom got even more furious, and they both started yelling. My mom wasn't buying the story. Lana then showed her the edited pictures from the country club, as well as the text change, which angered my mother even more. My poor dad couldn't even say a word to defend himself, as both my mom and Lana got into a yelling match, with Lana claiming that she was pregnant with my dad's baby. Yeah, it was sick. Also, don't forget, this whole thing was live streamed for thousands to see. Finally, Damien gets there and mediates the situation by telling them that it was Julia's stupid prank. He threatens to call the police on Lana, and only then does she leave. My mom and dad were still in disbelief, as Damien reassured them that there was no cheating involved and that everything was fine. A few minutes later, Damien got the call about my accident. He then told my parents, and the shock of everything that had happened in the past few minutes took a toll on my dad. He fainted and hit his head on the table as he fell and had to be rushed to the hospital as well. He was doing okay and was in the room next to mine. Yeah, so that happened. To be honest, I cannot fathom how Julie thought that something like this would ever be a good idea. The fact that she couldn't take responsibility for her actions and blame me for everything when things went wrong was disgusting. There was nothing funny about it, and she ended up endangering 2 lives that day. My poor parents were made into a laughingstock for a bunch of faceless idiots to make fun of behind a screen. I hated everything about it, not to mention my poor dad, who was baselessly accused of adultery on a public platform. I can't imagine how he must have felt at the time. The same goes for my mom. This whole thing was traumatizing, and so many people had seen this live on Instagram, including our coworkers, friends, and family. Not to mention the fact that Julie had lied to us and almost destroyed our parents' marriage. The worst part was, she wasn't even in the house when this happened. She was live streaming it from cameras that she had hidden in our house. I was repulsed. My mom told me that Julia was with my dad right now. I didn't care how much pain I was in. I had to see her myself and give her a piece of my mind. I stormed into my dad's room, and Julia immediately started accusing me and blaming me for being the mastermind behind this plan. I couldn't help but laugh. I made sure that everyone knew I was innocent. I told them that I had no idea about anything whatsoever and that Julia was making the whole thing up. I showed them that she had blocked me from social media and made them read through all the texts that we had made to each other before. I also told them that she had lied to me by saying that she needed money to help her stabilize and that I had given her our wedding money because I blindly believed her. I even showed them the transaction and Damon was my alibi. By this time, everyone knew that I had no part in this, and Julia's defense was crumbling. After trying her best to act innocent, she finally gave in and admitted that she was the one who planned everything. She tried to get on my parents' good side by emotionally manipulating them and telling them that it was a mistake and that she would never repeat it again. But by now, we were so used to her antics that we knew that she was not going to change anytime soon. We told her to leave the room, and after a lot of resistance, she left. The next day, my parents told me that Julia had lied to them as well, about trying to get a new job and stabilizing herself. They had lent her a lot of money, and so did I. They now found out that Julia had given all of our money to a man who was supposed to be a quote-unquote celebrity manager. He had promised her that she would become a star if she gave him money, and she did. But now he's missing. This was the limit for all of us. We got in touch with our lawyers, and now my parents are officially suing her for defamation and embezzlement of funds. I don't really like the idea of getting lawyers involved, but what she did was unacceptable, and she needs to face the consequences of it. My parents are disgusted with her and are not dropping the allegations. Last night, Julia called me, begging me for my help to get a lawyer. She says that I am the reason this all happened because I was a bad big sister and didn't correct her when she was wrong. I couldn't believe that despite everything she had done so far, she still found a way to blame me. I had practically begged her for years to stop, but she paid no heed and was now suffering because of it. She said that she was truly sorry and that she didn't have any money and that she was too broke to get sued. She said that I was the only hope of mending this family. I don't know what to do. On one hand, she is my sister, but what she did was horrible. I don't want to help her because she has completely lost my trust, but I know this case will ruin her if I don't help her out. I'm so confused. Any advice? Okay, wow. I didn't expect this to blow up. Thank you for all the advice. I see a lot of helpful information on here. Also, to those of you asking to see the video of the live stream just to have fun, you're all sick. It is because of people like you that cause these influencers to do such stupid things and get away with them. Please stop enabling them. Do not support people who make a living out of harming people in the name of fun or a prank. You're just giving them an excuse to be a vile human without owning up to it. With that out of the side, I decided to talk to my parents at least once before they officially filed a report. The fact that her celebrity manager had managed to take away her money and vanish seems to have brought about a change in Julia. She told me that she honestly thought that what she was doing was harmless and just a bit of fun. Her followers made it seem like it was okay and wanted things to get spicier. This drove her to do extreme things in the name of entertainment. I mean, I get it. I understand just how scary social media is. And if you're someone like Julie, who thrives on the validation that she gets online, you tend to do anything to please your followers. We had a real conversation after what felt like years. Julie seemed genuinely apologetic, especially because I had met with an accident amid this whole thing. She opened up to me and told me about the pressure that she was facing from her manager and how disappointed she was when she lost deals and followers. She said that she barely recognized herself anymore and promised to change. She said that she was going to get a real job and pay us back the money she owed us. She once again begged me to try talking to her parents to not press charges and that she was going to change. I don't know if I trust her because she pulled the same stunt last time and look where it got us. I love her, but I still don't forgive her for everything, especially for blaming me when she couldn't take the heat. I don't think we will ever go back to the way things were, but she has never opened up to me like this before. I almost pity her. Anyway, I caved in and decided to speak to my parents regarding this. Ultimately, it's their call, but maybe giving Julie a second chance is something we need to consider. Also, for those of y'all concerned about me and my dad, just wanted to say that we're both okay. He was discharged the next day. Turns out his blood pressure spiked because of the stress. He did get a small concussion, but is doing good. My leg is fractured and my mobility is limited, but apart from that, I'm fine. Thanks for all the concern. Hello everyone, it's been a couple of weeks. Sorry to keep you waiting. So the meeting with my parents went off pretty well. Julie was genuinely sorry for how she behaved and fell at my parents' feet begging for forgiveness. She isn't taking this well. I feel like the fact that the guy she trusted ran away with her money was a big reality check, and that she has finally realized just how ruthless this whole industry can be. My parents didn't even want to look at her, but after I convinced them to hear her out, they agreed. She opened up to them like never before, and we all ended up crying. She wouldn't stop apologizing to my dad, especially for what she had done. She said that she felt disgusting and that she would never take advantage of people again. She begged them not to sue her and promised to repay all the money. She even said that she would individually go and apologize to all the family, friends, and coworkers for causing such a ruckus. She deleted all her social media apps in front of us. After what seemed like hours of discussing and crying, my parents finally agreed to not sue her. They said that they weren't going to support her anymore and that she was going to have to repay them everything before she even thought about doing anything else. Even though they agreed, it is clear that they haven't forgiven her yet, and neither have I. We have taken the news of this mystery celebrity manager called Jerry to the police, and apparently, Julie is not the only person who has gotten scammed by him. 3 other potential influencers have given him money to become famous, and he did the same thing to them. The police are on the case as we speak. That's about it. My parents are not suing. However, Julie has a huge task on her hands in making reparations. I am still furious with her, but just pray that this will finally teach her a lesson, and maybe something good will come out of this. Hello. So, Jerry has finally been found after almost 6 months of escaping the police. Thankfully, he hasn't spent all our money, and we will be able to recover what was embezzled. We had almost given up hope, but we were contacted yesterday and given the good news. We couldn't be happier. Apparently, Jerry is a con man and has been doing this for a while. He will be put on trial, and things don't look good for him. I am also happy to report that I am back on both my feet. No more crutches. As for Julie, she has become a very different person. She is working 2 jobs and I'm very proud of her. She has managed to pay me back with interest all of the money that she owed me. She is also letting me use her car until she can afford to get me a new one. She has also mended relations with my parents. They're still not on the best terms, but she is giving it her all. She has managed to pay them back some of the money and has promised to repay them everything, even after they get back the money officially from the police. I didn't believe that she could turn her life around, but I am so happy that she has. She hasn't even mentioned social media these past few months, and I think she finally understands just how stupid the whole thing was. I'm glad she's turned over a new leaf and is trying to be better. Even though it's going to take a long time for us to trust her again, this is a start. And that was it for today's story. Thank you very much for listening. Smash the like button for me and subscribe for more stories. Thanks again, and we'll be seeing you in the next one.